Let's bring you some breaking news now. The Israeli government has unanimously approved the dismissal of the head of Shin Bet, the internal security agency. Ronen will finish his term next month. Well, Hamdah Salhut joins us on the phone now from the Jordanian capital, Amman. She's there because the Israeli government and the Palestinian Authority have banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel and the occupied West Bank. So, Hamdah, what more details do we have?
This is an incredibly unprecedented move in Israel. It's the first time that a government has voted to dismiss the head of its domestic internal security services. And what we know is that the Israeli cabinet convened very late in the evening, just around 11 p.m. local time, and the vote was unanimous. And what we're hearing from leaks in the meeting, according to the Israeli prime minister, that he had lost his faith in the Shin Bet chief starting on October the 7th. However, Ronen was not present in this meeting and instead submitted a quite scathing letter to the ministers within the government, noting that his presence in the meeting would not be because he didn't actually find these provisions legal, saying that the dismissal of him from his post needed to happen in some sort of orderly structure with a lot of different other people who needed to be involved, given just how senior his position is. But nonetheless, he also noted that the Israeli prime minister is trying to evade a lot of different things here, which means he's trying to evade an internal investigation into the security failures that Israel had on October the 7th. And he's also trying to push forward his own political agenda. And Ronen also said that Netanyahu wanted him to negotiate with mediators on a ceasefire deal, but without coming to any sort of deal. And he was sidelined from those talks about a month ago and instead replaced with one of Netanyahu's confidants so that the Israeli prime minister could get his agenda on the table. So this is surely an unprecedented step in Israeli history. It's getting a lot of backlash from the opposition. And actually, recent polling done in Israeli media within the last week shows that 51% of the country does not support this move. It's something that sparked a lot of widespread protests on Thursday that led to violence between police and demonstrators. And now this move, according to the opposition, is going to weaken Israel both internally and against its adversaries.
Hamdah, unprecedented, as you say. What might be the repercussions of this then?
Well, there could be a lot of repercussions here, and what the opposition is saying is that the internal security within Israel could take a hit when they are in a state of war and the head of the domestic security agency is getting replaced. So he's set to be removed from his post on April 10th. However, if the government unanimously decides on a replacement, he could be out of his job before then. But what it would also mean is something different in terms of any sort of negotiations moving forward, because the Shin Bet chief said that he was acting within the interest of the state, within the interest of the captives who are still in Gaza, and that Netanyahu is not operating in that place. So the ramifications for the Israeli public, for Israeli society, and for Israel's security could all be at play here, because Netanyahu is trying to push forward a different agenda according to his political opponents. So when you have Netanyahu removing people from different positions, this is what the opposition is saying, is that he is trying to push forward all of his political allies into these spots. And we're also hearing for some time now that many within the right-wing government, including Netanyahu himself, want to fire the attorney general because she puts some of those checks and balances on Netanyahu's government, on the right-wing coalition, and they have overstepped her rule for quite some time, including the most recent of which just a couple of days ago and this evening. The AG was actually at that cabinet meeting and said that she's there to present the legalities of this measure, saying that it couldn't really be done, but the government is deciding to do it anyway. So there are a lot of repercussions here and ramifications, but nonetheless, what the Shin Bet security chief Ronen is trying to say is that Netanyahu is, one, trying to evade this major probe that could find him at fault for Israel's security failures. 2, trying to push forward his own political agenda and putting his allies in the very top and senior level positions. And 3, trying to prolong the war for personal and political gain rather than ending the war, rather than bringing back the remaining Israeli captives, trying to do that longer so that Netanyahu can benefit from it.
Hamdah, Salhut, thank you.